Proverbs 20 and 21. Out in the open, wisdom calls aloud. She raises her voice in the public square. On top of the wall, she cries out. At the city gate, she makes her speech. Verse 22. How long will you who are simple love your simple ways? How long will mockers delight in mockery and fools hate knowledge? Repent at my rebuke. Then I will pour out my thoughts to you. I will make known to you my teachings. But since you refuse to listen when I call, and no one pays attention when I stretch out my hand, since you disregard all of my advice and do not accept my rebuke, I in turn will laugh. That's crazy. I in turn will laugh when disaster strikes you. I will mock when calamity overtakes you. When calamity overtakes you like a storm, when disaster sweeps over you like a whirlwind, when distress and trouble overwhelm you, then they will call to me, but I will not answer. That speaks for itself, doesn't it? That speaks for itself. These videos that I'm doing, I'm trying to draw people closer to God, because clearly they're ignoring his clear signs. It's all around us. I remember going out on the weekends to go club and drink. And on the streets of Houston, there would be people teaching the word, trying to get people to draw closer to God, trying to get people to leave the ways of the world of clubbing and partying and the sinful life. And they were trying to get people closer to God. And I remember being out there and just ultimately knowing that I shouldn't be out here. I should be pursuing God instead of pursuing these urges, these feelings, the vibes. And I gave myself the excuse when I was out there, like, okay, I'll always look while I'm drunk and inebriated or cross-faded, like seeing these people on the street preaching the word, preaching the gospel, talking to people. I would just be like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. But I was all like, not now. Eventually I'll get to it. Eventually I'll start becoming closer with God. Eventually I'll start seeking God. But I'm trying to have a good time right now. That like, there's different times you could separate them. You know, right now I'm trying to have a good time. I'll leave that for another day. Man, how much longer are we gonna start? How much longer are we gonna ignore his calls? Like, it's abundantly clear, but people choose to ignore it every single day, especially the ones that actually have a certain type of relationship with God, whether it's small or big. But if it's a small relationship with God and people know deep down inside, okay, what I'm doing isn't beneficial to me. It's just a feeling that it's distracting me. How much longer are you going to ignore the call? Are you going to wait till a sickness come? A death come? People all the time, they wait until a family member gets in the hospital. A son, a daughter, a cousin, a mom, a dad, an uncle, a grandparent gets in the hospital, and they start to call on God like, oh Lord Jesus, please, don't take away my son, don't take away my daughter, don't take away my cousin, my mom, my aunt, whoever it may be. They wait until the last minute, the very last minute, to call on God. the very last minute to want to have a relationship with God, to want to have a conversation with God, the very last minute. It's just beyond selfish. Like, the very last minute you call on him to deliver you from something that's so catastrophic, when you could have been having this relationship with God this entire time. This entire time. The flesh nature is so selfish, it can do that. It can make you just so involved with the flesh and all these urges and this and that, and just nobody ever taught the guy. People don't even be talking to God when things are going good. So why you want to talk to him when things are going bad? God knows, he sees that. He doesn't like that. This is for the person that ultimately knows the things that they're doing, the ways that they're living are not right, but they're choosing to feed their flesh and to keep living in these ways. The signs are clear, man. It's very clear. Like, stop ignoring the signs. Negativity is all around you in this world. Negative influences are pulling you in every which way in this world. We know these things deep down inside, but we continue to pursue these things. That's because the flesh, the devil, has a way of pulling on you to keep you distracted and keep you attached to these things. But being attached to these things don't bring nothing but confusion and anxiety. But being attached to God brings nothing but clarity and focus, purpose. Those urges, those temptations, those feelings of the world may feel good in the moment, but they destroy you in the long run. People wonder why they're confused, or like, I don't know, like, oh, I have such confusion in my life. I don't know what my purpose is in my life, or what I'm supposed to be doing in life. They're just living from urge to urge, fleshly nature to fleshly nature. They're living from orgasm to orgasm, weekend to weekend of drinking, partying, smoke session to smoke session. That's the only time they actually feel something. Their sense of reward and good feeling is attached to these things of the world. They don't know how to feel good about these things. But being attached to God, being under God, committing your life to God, being attached to God's ways, He can develop purpose in you. So if you're confused on your life on, don't lie to yourself. You'll be like, oh no, I know what I'm doing in life. I know what my purpose is. Oh, I'm going to go out here and get lit. Don't stop lying to yourself. Like, just stop lying to yourself. Like, I'm begging you, stop lying to yourself. Because the moment these things that you're chasing, you may be getting them now. That's because the devil is keeping you comfortable in these things, to keep you distracted and deluded, to keep you in a sunken place. And he makes you feel comfortable in this area, but deep down in your heart, you're not really comfortable. You're not comfortable deep down. So you may be getting these things. You may have a whole roster. You may be getting premarital sex. You may be having so much sex. You may have a whole roster of women you're having sex with. And it's like, oh, it feels good to your fleshly nature. But the moment these things are stripped from you, the moment the women are gone, the moment you're not having sex anymore, you start to feel empty, because your sense of reward factor is attached to something of the fleshly nature. So then you go to feeling dead inside, empty inside, because people go to feeling empty and dead inside because their flesh is attached to something of the carnal nature, something of that's tangible, something you can touch, something that's tangible. But with God, your sense of reward is attached to something untangible. It's untouchable. Your sense of peace is attached to something that can't be grasped with the hand. I remember feeling all these feelings like at one point I didn't feel alive because if I wasn't smoking, getting a high, I didn't feel alive. If I wasn't feeling some type of stimulation from some of the world, I didn't feel alive. You know? If I wasn't getting sex, if I wasn't getting orgasm, I wasn't feeling alive. So I was chasing after these things. And it was destroying me in the process because I wasn't called to be this way. I was called to be set apart from the world. So when I wasn't getting it, especially by my means of the positive way of getting it, it wasn't correlating properly. And it was causing so much stress. It was causing agony, like serious agony, that I was asking God, like, why I have such good intentions. Why can't I, like, why can't I find a main woman to deal with? But it's like, I'm called apart from this world. I can't even go about getting these things the positive way that the typical person in the world goes about getting them, you know? The game of the world. You gotta play the game to do this, play the game to do that. With God, there is no game. There is no game with God. With Christ, with Jesus, there is no game. The pursuit of Christ, everything's abundantly clear. It's no stress. It's no there's no game of running to get a girl, this and that. When you're following Christ, He blesses you with things because you're keeping yourself pure. I'm trying to help people, man. A lot of times people feel these things, but they lack the clarity to be able to express these things. So due to me dealing with these things over the years and finally coming to a place to where I understand it in its entirety and understand what God is doing in my life and what He's trying to keep me away from, I can properly communicate these things to help y'all draw closer to God. It's such a stressful life to live, living your sense of reward, your sense of happiness, your sense of peace being something connected to money, cars, clothes, sex, weed, alcohol, you know, a fleeting feeling, something that's so tangible, something that can be tarnished, something that can be burned, something that can be eradicated. It doesn't last forever. But God's love for you lasts forever. It's abundant too. It's abundant. It never runs out. His love and His compassion hits you every morning. Every morning when you're pursuing Him. You don't have to go out, spend money. You know? I had to go out and spend money on ounces of weed every week just because I thought it provided me with clarity. I needed the therapy. What a foolish thing I was doing. Spending money on some tangible to provide me therapy. And I was relying on that more than God. I was trying to use God and weed to provide therapy for me to keep my overall being just at peace and just at calmness. When in God, you could just give it all to God. Everything. Every last bit of it you could give to God. And He'll dispose of it and give you peace. Every last bit of it you give to God, and it's not, it doesn't cost anything. It's free to give to Him. It's not going to cost you your money. It's not going to cost you going out chasing sex, getting an STD, premarital sex, getting an STD. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free to give to Him, and He'll happily deal with it for you. And this is another important thing too. Wherever you're at, with your relationship with God, or just wherever you're at in the world, or if you don't have a relationship with God at all, if you seek him, he will answer. He will meet you wherever you're at. You could be in jail. Bro, yo, this may sound crazy, but this is how understanding God is. You could be a child molester. You could be a killer. You could be a serial killer. God will meet you wherever you at if you call out to him. Jesus Christ saved me. Like, if you just call out to him, he will meet you wherever you at, whatever you're dealing with, whatever sins you committed. He will meet you wherever you're at and deal with you and help deliver you from these ways. So if you're thinking like, okay, you're too involvedly deep in this, you could be too involved in drugs and gang-related type of stuff. Wherever you're at, he's not a human. He's not. At one point he was human-like with Jesus, but he's not of the fleshly nature. He's not going to judge you. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people won't deal with you just because of the things you've done. You know? Just because of the sins you committed, just because of your past ways. But God is not like that. Wherever you're at, he will deal with you. That's how understanding he is. That's how understanding his love is for you. You just don't understand. God's love is way more fulfilling and way more nourishing than these things. The things of the world destroy you, but God builds you, makes you stronger, makes you into a better person, improves your character. The things of the world destroys you. It makes you reliant on those things to live a life. God, he adds to your life. No amount of money in the world, no amount of nothing in this world can equal up to the value that God stores within you and that God gives you in your mind every single day. All the waste, all the pointless time spent, pointless money spent trying to go get a section, go get a club and partying, like, just to try to have a good time, or like, you can have a good time for free, talking, worshiping God in nature, dealing with yourself. You know, it's a totally different experience. It's just the ultimate freeing experience. But people don't know because their urge, their flesh got them captive by the throat, by the heart. So if you could just open up your heart to God, you could experience way better things, anything that this world has to offer. Nothing this world can offer you that is better than what God can offer you, what God has for your life, the mission that God has for your life. So I hope this message reaches somebody, man. Like, you don't have to go out on the weekend, go to a bar and drink. You don't have to do that just to have a good time, or just to feel like, to relieve the stresses of the world. You don't have to do none of that, man. You don't have to do any of that. You pursue God, you chase after God, and God will put things in your heart that'll bring you fulfillment. He'll put things on your heart that'll bring you fulfillment that aren't negatively impacting on your life and your well-being. That's what he did to me. I remember when I said this in my last video, but I'm gonna say it again. My first initial prayer when I was just deep in the slums in quarantine, I wanted something different. I was just alone. And I was like, okay, I just want to feel something different. I'm tired of feeling these feelings. God led me to fitness, the gym, being active. All I gotta do is ask him, trust him, rely on him. You have to rely on him. You have to rely on him more than these things that you're pursuing, more than you pursuing a validation relationship through something else. a validation relationship through weed, a validation relationship through alcohol, a validation relationship through sex, through a woman, trying to validate yourself by chasing after a woman to get sex, or even a woman chasing after a man's validation, attention to get sex or money or whatever. You don't have to rely on these external things for your validation when God can be your total and ultimate validation. I hope this was able to help somebody. It's getting bad out here. It's pretty prevalent. It's all around us. Everything is overly sexualized. Everything at this point is meant to destroy you. And the longer you ignore the signs, the more and more it's going to bring you further away from God and destroy you more and more. The choice is up to you.